Welcome back, everyone. This is the Bourbon Judge. We have a special guest tonight, Sherri Carter. Hello, Sherri. How are you?
Great, Marcus. How are you?
Good. Doing well. Can't complain at all. How's life out in California these days?
It's pretty great. It's good to be back out here and seeing all those friends that we've missed over the last several months and year. It's all kind of run together.
That's awesome. That is good stuff.
Wonderful.
Nice. And I know Mark had a previous engagement, so we're thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining. I know you guys are super busy because you guys are out there right now, I believe, bottling some of your wine, correct?
That's right. Yes, we actually came back from Kentucky after producing our exciting spring lineup.
Nice.
And we had to get right back here because Mark is traditionally bottles his wine on his birthday, which is May 21st. So we had to get back out here for the bottling process out here, which was great. We are super excited about the wine lineup for this year. So lots of things to celebrate.
Good stuff. All right, that's awesome. Well, let's go ahead and kick us off. And, so I have a quick question for you. So, when you think about Old Carter whiskey, so you guys obviously produce fabulous, American whiskeys, bourbon, rye, but your heart really came from wine. So maybe you can just kind of tell everyone just, the background of, your wine business and then how you came into the whiskey business with your, partnership at that time with Kentucky Owl.
Certainly. So Mark started a very long time ago. 1998, he started producing wines here in Napa Valley.
All right.
That was born from a passion for collecting wine. He's got a hotel and a restaurant up in Eureka on the coast, which we actually just went up there and spent the weekend there.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Still has the hotel and a big wine list up there. So he kind of got very passionate about wine while living up there. We're only 3.5 hours south of Eureka here in Calistoga, where he eventually landed after he produced wines basically they're called virtual vintners in the wine business. So he was making wine at other people's facilities and then landed the winery in 2006-07. And so we finally had a home of our own, but also large expenses, as you could imagine.
Sure.
And so we were looking for people to come and make wine at our place as we had made wine at other wineries in the past.
Yeah.
And now on that journey, it took us all over the nation as we were both still deeply into hospitality. I was doing hospitality marketing. And so I dragged Mark to an event in Austin, Texas as my sidekick. And lo and behold, we were there. And who else was there but Dixon Dedman?
Okay.
So Dixon was he was the only gentleman who was ready to take us up on the offer to make wine.
Okay.
But Mark had remembered that Dixon's family had a company many years ago, which was producing whiskey and bourbon.
Yep.
And so Mark thought that was way more interesting than doing another small wine project. So he said, Dixon, why don't we bring that brand back instead? And Dixon was immediately intrigued and said, yes, let's do that. And so we did. And that's how Kentucky Owl came to be. And the three of us shared a lovely partnership for many years, and we had fun, and we were just getting going. And I think a lot of folks might know the story, but it was it transitioned rather swiftly.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we were certainly in love with not only the process of producing whiskey, but also the state of Kentucky and the people there and the community.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so we were very interested in continuing on that journey, and Old Carter was born thereafter.
Love it. I love it. That is great. Such a great story. I mean, starting off with wine. So my father-in-law is he loves your wine. He's a big wine guy in general. So when I told him about, obviously the whiskey, he was like, well, let me try some whiskey. And let's just say, I think I've turned a wine guy into a whiskey guy, which is pretty cool too. So
I like it.
Indeed. Sorry. So I have a fun fact. Let's start off with a fun fact, and I'll make it easy for you. So one fun fact for you, and but I'll give you one for me to start off. So my fun fact, the best one probably is, all right. So my cousin, prior to COVID, but before the pandemic, my cousin was the former drummer of Patti LaBelle. So he toured with Patti LaBelle for many years. My mom went behind stage, met Patti LaBelle, like her childhood star. So I don't know if he's, if she's going to start touring again post pandemic, but he was the drummer for many years for Patti LaBelle.
Okay, now do I go?
Absolutely. What's your fun fact?
Well, I guess my fun fact is, and I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but I was very deeply into the wine world as well before doing whiskey. So I have 2 fun facts.
Okay.
Am I allowed to do 2 because Mark's not here?
You're allowed to do 2. Whatever you want, Sherri. It's your world.
Okay, and I get to make up Mark's fun fact. I think that's completely appropriate.
I like it.
So one fun fact about me is I actually had my own wine brand for 9 years.
Ah, nice.
It was a little wine brand called Ruby Courant.
Okay.
It was all Grenache and Syrah based blends.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And some people might know I'm an equestrian artist, but all of the labels featured different paintings of mine on every different bottle. And yes, that's my woodcut on our Old Carter label. I don't think I have any. I'm in our home bar actually in Calistoga. That's where I'm located at the moment. And we don't have any wine down here. I'd show you one of my old. I should have had one ready to go. But
that's all right. That's a cool.
So I had wine for several years, and in addition to that, I also wrote a book called Daily Decadence, and the book features a series of stories. Okay. And then it also has 60 literary recipes and 60 wine tasting notes. So I did that a while ago.
Oh my gosh, writing a book, you had your own, I never knew all this. That's pretty cool. Wow.
The other side of the whiskey girl, yes.
The other side of the whiskey girl. Good stuff. Very cool. Very nice.
Oh, I do. I'm going to fill in Mark's fun fact.
Oh, yes, please do.
So what I love about Mark, and this is awesome because I get to decide what it is. So
don't embarrass him too much.
He's an incredible builder. So I don't know how many people know that he has actually been, the driving force between all of his every endeavor that he gets into. There's a huge construction and building aspect to that he actually does himself.
Really? That is pretty cool. He built his hotel. Okay.
He added on to the winery in a huge way to 5,500 1,000 square feet warehouses for barrels.
All right.
And countless tanks and all kinds of things back there. He's built this house that we're in.
Wow, it's beautiful. By the way, you can tell the background. I love the decor, the design, the stone on the fireplace. That is like amazing. Is that your touch?
That's my fireplace. Yeah, that's my only touch. But he did everything else.
I love it.
In Kentucky, he has done an incredible job with a friend of ours, Eddie Greiner, downtown Louisville at our little showroom down there. And I don't know if you've seen the things on Instagram or what. That's all Mark.
That's all Mark, really. So all the design, everything, the building, everything. Good stuff. Very nice.
It's all from him. It's none of that's original except for the original brick wall in our showroom.
That's too cool. So talk about your showroom in Louisville. So, a couple things, number one, is it open to the public? Can you buy product there or, your bottles? Like, what does that experience look like?
So right now we're kind of finding our way, Marcus, honestly.
All right.
We are very much looking forward to, because we just received our full distillery permit.
Okay. Congrats.
Thank you. It was a long time coming, and we're super excited about that.
Yeah.
And so now we're just navigating the waters of what we're allowed to do and able to do.
Okay.
Out of that space. And so I'm not sure exactly what it looks like right now.
Sure.
But our desire to be able to sell some special things out of the tasting. It's not a tasting room. I hate to use that, because we don't do official tastings, and it is not open to the public just because of the space and the size.
Sure, makes sense.
Our staffing and the fact that we don't have a lot of product that we can move around yet.
Okay.
certainly our eventual desire is to be able to have more things that we can offer out of that space that are just special bottlings and, special offerings, some single barrel work and those kinds of things out of the retail space in the front.
Very nice. Very nice. That's awesome. Now it's such a cool, it's great to have like your own showroom. That's really neat. It's great that it's expanding, and pretty cool that Mark obviously was, behind, building it as well, which is really neat, and designing. I love that. So that's pretty cool. So when you think about your products, and I know you've had some new releases, I want to dive into those in a second, but in terms of just Old Carter across the board. So I'm pretty lucky and fortunate. So I live in the Northeast, and between my own state, Delaware, New Jersey, Maryland, I can find Old Carter all over, and I'm super happy. But for everyone else out there, how many states, like where can you find Old Carter? Like not exactly all states, but like how many states? Are we talking like 15, 20? What's the norm, I guess?
So at the moment we're released in, I'll just go in the order of appearance actually.
All right.
So Kentucky, of course, we started there.
Absolutely. You got to start at the home.
Absolutely. So we are firmly grounded in Kentucky.
All right.
After that, we moved into California for the reason that we're here as well. Obviously, we have a home here and a stake here, and so it made sense to be kind of on the home turf over here.
Sure.
And then we went with DC. We've got friends that are there, and we're very, very interested in representing the product. So those were the three initial. After Kentucky, those became our kind of three core states, and then areas, I should say. Mm-hmm. And then this last release season, we were lucky enough to also incorporate the Georgia market, New York and New Jersey, all right, as well as Louisiana.
Okay. Very nice.
Yes, and so we're very excited. We'd obviously like to grow, as much as possible every year. Mm-hmm. But with the way that we do business and the way that we blend and how we like to progress, we're very hesitant to bite off more than we can chew or do anything that we don't believe in, and we'll never do that.
Respect that 100%.
I thank you. I really appreciate hearing that, because I hate telling people no, that we don't have something that they are looking for. Mm-hmm. But it is also really important to us to do this responsibly and to continue. Mm-hmm. Both Mark and myself are artists. We're both very creative, and we believe deeply in the creative process, and absolutely, that you shouldn't compromise along the way. Yep. And so we want to continue to carry on and do what we do and make the best product possible. And absolutely, I think one of the things we've been holding out for is the distillates that we've been actually putting in barrel since we started the brand. Nice. So we've been actually laying down barrels of whiskey. That's the first thing we did. We bought barrels. Okay. Source barrels, but we also started contract distilling in the state product.
Wow, so you're making your own distillation. That's pretty darn cool by itself. Wow. So now when can all of us expect to have that great, product in our hands? I'm sure it's obviously, we all know bourbon takes several years, a good number of years to, really obviously age quite well in the barrels and so forth. But what are you guys thinking in terms of like, roughly like time frame wise?
I want to say, I can't see anything coming out before next year.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, I feel like it's just going to be, starting to kind of stretch itself out and present itself to the world, they're like unruly children, right? When they're growing up. And so you just have to wait until they mellow out a little bit before you introduce them to the world. And we'll see. I mean, they tell us, you got to just follow the barrel. You do. We have several different, we've got Kentucky bourbons. We have several different mash bills within that realm. We've got Kentucky ryes laid down. So we're just seeing how everything kind of progresses and comes together.
That's great.
So I would love to give you a firm date, but we have no firm plans. We're gonna,
TBD, right? That's the way bourbon is. TBD. You never know, right? You never know, honestly. So, one of the cool things, I'll say this, one of the best things about when you think about Old Carter whiskey as a whole, no matter if it's the American whiskey, the ryes, or even the bourbons, you always know what you're getting, which is a top of the line product. So I host a lot of the guys in my area, in like the Delaware, Maryland area. We have a lot of bourbon nights. And every time I pull out a bottle of Old Carter, everyone's like, "Thank you for letting me try," because everyone, there's a lot of hype, right, built up regarding Old Carter. But every single time, it never disappoints. I mean, no matter if it's a rye, if it's American whiskey, if it's a bourbon, every single batch, every single bottle is just like top notch. It's my go-to when I'm like, I need some good bourbon because I just had a hell of a day.
We have had a day.
Yes, exactly. All right. So
I will say this, Marcus, in conclusion to that statement, we really appreciate that you feel that way. And I'll tell you, if people have said to us, asked us questions about what do you always strive for? What are you trying to create in your whiskeys? Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is quality. Yeah. And so if you can come to any of the bottles or any of the expressions, and they're all different.
Yep.
And everyone's got a different opinion on what they enjoy and what they love. Mm-hmm. And we just feel, Mark and I feel that if we're going to make the best quality whiskey with the best complexity,
absolutely,
the best mouthfeel, and the best, it just has to hit on all levels. And it really helps when we both get chill bumps when we're working on the blends. Then we know, okay, now we're close.
We're close.
That's what we really try to put in every one of those blends.
Love it. No, that's good stuff. So you recently, so talk about, like, recently you came out with several different bourbons and several different American whiskeys. And I have a couple of them here. We have batch 5 of the American whiskey. We also have batch 9, batch 10 of the bourbon as well. But there are a few others. So maybe just speak to some of your recent releases that came out.
Sure. Do you think it's time you and I should have a drink of something?
I think you should. You tell me what you want to sip.
Well, I think we should have whatever you want.
All right. Let's go with, what? I've heard a lot about batch 9 of the bourbon. I want to try batch 9. I heard it's like amazing.
You want to come out. All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's dive into it, Sherri. Let's do it. It is time.
Oh, and you know what?
What's that?
I hear my dog barking, so I wonder if you know who is home.
Oh, very nice. Is that Mr. Mark maybe coming through the door soon?
His timing is usually impeccable. Cheers.
Cheers. Absolutely. Cheers indeed. Oh my gosh. Just from the nose. Oh man. Sometimes I have a hard time even just, getting it away from the nose and actually just, sipping it, because the nose is like amazing. And I mean, really good every single time. Oh, as they say, cheers, salute.
Cheers.
Oh man. Whew. Wow. What is the proof on this? 116.8.
So here's the crazy part, Marcus, with this lineup.
Oh. So
I literally thought that the DMA machine was off the day that we bottled, because 3 out of the 4 bourbon releases are 116.8.
I noticed that.
I'm like, sure. Really sure? Again.
That is awesome.
It was true.
No, that is so cool. So I'll tell you though, the nose on this is, oh my gosh, this is like, it's almost like candy in a bottle. It's like, you get a lot of like caramel, almost like some citrus, almost like some orange peel in there. Oh my goodness, it's so nice. This is so nice. It's like so lovely. It's just elegant, but every single bottle, again, is just elegant. It's elegant and it's just top quality each and every time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Sherri.
So what I love about 9, and I would say, I will tell you, full disclosure, I think some of the other expressions are a hair softer.
Okay. All right.
Right for the.
I went right for the punch.
We're professionals. We can back up and come back.
Absolutely.
So batch 9 is actually a high rye bourbon bill.
Ah, okay.
So I find that this is one of the most interesting and complex and deep blends that we've done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Everything that we did this spring is Indiana distilled.
Okay.
And these barrels are all about 7 years old.
All right. Oh, nice. Okay.
And we also do, this is another thing I'm not sure if folks know a lot about, but we do a lot of double oaking. So we're doing second wood, brand new barrels, very traditional.
Okay. Sure.
But brand new barrels, and a lot of toasted and charred wood. So
love it.
We do a lot of that. I mean, everybody talks about finishing whiskey, and people
Mm-hmm.
ask a lot about will you ever finish a whiskey in a wine barrel, since we're in the wine business.
Mm-hmm.
But
great question, by the way. That's a great one. I mean, you guys are kind of like the wine experts. I mean, that's been in the back of my mind forever. So, what are you thinking about that?
Well, it's a great question, first of all, and we just feel that these whiskeys that we get to work with, I feel very fortunate that we've been able to buy bottles with some barrels with some age on them.
Okay.
They're so good. They're kind of doing their own thing. And so it's been hard for us to almost justify experimenting with that. We may do something on a smaller scale,
sure,
in-house, or
okay,
see how
test it out first, make sure you really like it before you open it up to the public.
Absolutely. But we are so pleased with the results that we're getting with kind of the way we love to do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, you always have to say, well, why?
Yeah.
For the sake of experimentation?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're right. That's a good point. That's a fair point. I mean, that is really a fair point. You're right. I mean, even though you guys are truly like the wine experts, it's like, if it's not broken, why fix it, right? I mean, honestly, it would be hard for me, as much as I love, and I know a lot of different distilleries are doing different, wine finish, no matter if it's a port, a Cabernet, whatever it might be. At the end of the day, bourbon is just traditional great whiskey, and can you finish it in a different wine finish? Of course, but do you really need to? Maybe not, honestly, especially if your product is just top notch. There's really no need for it. So, which is great.
I love that. I love the whole industry. I love what everyone's doing. I love all of the experimentation. I love all of the creativity out there, and absolutely hats off to everybody who is in the business and doing what they do. Absolutely.
Completely agree. All right. So recent releases were, and keep me honest, batch 5 and 6 for the American whiskey, and 8, 9, and 10 for the bourbon. Is that correct?
Including 7.
Oh, 7 also. Okay. See, I don't think I saw 7 locally by me.
You didn't get any down there?
No 7 by me locally.
So 7 was a smaller batch out of the 4 bourbons.
Oh God. Okay.
And so we've never released that many batches at once.
I love it. Thank you for doing so, by the way.
You're welcome. It's quite the intense last few months putting those together, but we started out with some absolutely incredible barrels, and we were just blown away where all of them were individually on their own. Mm-hmm. And we just looked at each other and said, I mean, this is the most fantastic lineup we've ever had to, work with. And so we just jumped in and put them together. And so we knew that we wanted to do enough batches, and our typical batches run between 5 to 13 barrels. We've done 5 barrel rye batches.
Okay.
Typically it's a 7 to 8, 9 barrel bourbon batch. And then the Americans seem to run higher with barrel numbers.
With barrel numbers. Got it. Okay.
Barrel amounts, right? So
yeah, sure.
We're very comfortable in that, 7 to 10 barrel blend range. Mm-hmm. It just kind of seems to be a sweet spot for us.
That's awesome. No, that's great. It's the cool thing. I know even we were communicating even before today, and you were telling me that a lot of people always ask what's the secret? Is there some secret code that you guys have in terms of blending? And you're like, there's no secret code. It's just we blend it until it tastes good, and then we then we bottle it, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I mean, it sounds simple, and it is, and it isn't. I mean, we go through all of the barrels. We make notes on every single barrel that we're planning to possibly work with.
Okay.
And then it's just a marathon of blending, trial and error. What do you like? What do I like?
All right.
Where do we want to be? And what I do truly love, especially as an artist and someone who's, painted hundreds of paintings in my life, right? No two paintings are ever going to be the same.
So true. Indeed.
Just like the way we make wine vintage to vintage, vineyard to vineyard.
So you've had over, I think, hundreds of different paintings, and from a whiskey perspective, you just keep just blending it until it actually really makes sense.
Yes. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I've created tons of artwork. We've created tons of many blends of wine over the years, and vineyards produce what they produce every year. And it's going to be different because you're never going to have the same growing season twice. You're never going to have the same crop yield twice. You're never going to have the same, all of the variables. And so we've embraced that level of uniqueness in blending whiskey, because we know that we're never going to blend the same whiskey twice.
Absolutely.
And so for us, that gives us a lot of, there's a lot of creative freedom and just the ability to just take what's in front of us.
Yeah.
And make the best blend at that moment. It's truly a moment in time.
Okay.
And that's what I really love about blending whiskey is that you are capturing a moment, and it is what it is, and that batch is going to happen, and it's going to
be gone from there. It's like that perfect blend, and then it's that's our model, right? So we're not going to be creating thousands of cases per year of something that's consistent. Sure.
Because that's just not what we do or what we have access to. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, that's like, even for me, like kind of back to what we were discussing earlier. Again, a lot of times, like, you might have just a hell of a day, right? You guys have obviously your business, multiple businesses. I have my, day-to-day, business as well. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, it was a crazy day. I need something that, is not just, off the shelf, decent bourbon, right? That I like decent. I want something that just kind of hits home. That's a unique quality each and every time. I might want a bourbon. I might want one of your American whiskeys, or I might want something a little bit more with a spice to it. And I'll go toward like one of your ryes, but I know what I'm getting each and every time. And it's nice to have that unique quality with each batch. And sometimes I will rotate between either maybe I want like a certain batch of the bourbon or a certain batch of the rye. So you kind of have that flexibility, which is great. And I love that is not the standard. Every single, bottle that you produce is the exact same. So that by itself, keep doing what you're doing. If I can say one thing, please keep doing that.
Thank you. And there's nothing wrong with continuity either. It's nice to have your go-to that it's like, okay, this will do it tonight. This is what I need. Exactly. It's fun to have a spice rack to pick from.
It is. It sure is. That's the best thing in the world. It's nice to have a spice rack. So speaking of spice, which is a great segue. So I know I saw on Instagram that you guys are working on your ryes, which I think I have in front of me. Batch 8 of a newly released, actually not even released just yet, your rye, which is 115.8. Talk about your ryes that are coming out pretty soon, if you don't mind.
No problem. So super excited about the ryes this year. I don't know if you know any of the background on our rye production.
I would love to know more.
Okay, well, it's a funny story. So the very first thing that Old Carter produced happened to be ryes batches 1 and 2.
Okay.
And we decided that we wanted to do rye because we had not done rye as Kentucky Owl. So we were like, okay, this is something new, something different. Let's do a rye.
Okay.
We produced 2 rye blends. Each one was 7 barrels, or
all right.
5, maybe 5 barrels at that time. And I created one blend, and Mark created another blend.
Okay.
And so we couldn't decide which one we liked more. because they were uniquely different, and we loved them both.
All right.
One was definitely more towards Mark's palate, and one was more towards my palate.
All right.
So we couldn't decide, and we decided we would take this quest to our friends and whiskey family. And so we started showing these 2 rye samples to everybody that we knew. And so I was always out of my handbag pulling out, whiskey samples.
Sure.
So I kind of became known as the Sherri Poppins of whiskey at that point.
I love it.
But the consensus was consistently 50-50. So half the people enjoyed mine and half the people enjoyed Mark's blend. And we thought, oh my gosh, this is even worse than we thought. Because now we have no answers.
True.
We ended up going to Justin Thompson and Justin Sloan of Justin's House of Bourbon in Kentucky. So the Justins are very good friends of ours, and many years ago, their RV broke down in Napa here.
I love it.
Spending a couple weeks, and we totally became family, and it's a great story. But so we're very close to them, and we thought, these guys, they're the professionals. They're gonna nail this. They're gonna have this down.
Sure.
And what do you think happened, Marcus?
One picked one picked the other.
We were so frustrated, and it was like, okay, but then Justin Thompson got very serious. He was just very thoughtful. He said, well, guys, do you want the good news or the bad news? So Mark said, as this is true Mark fashion, he says, well, I like good news. Tell me.
Yeah, who doesn't? Yeah, seriously.
So JT says, well, the good news is there is no bad news. They're both delicious. Can you make both of them?
I like it.
We hadn't thought of that. And and oddly enough, I had selected a group of barrels and Mark selected a group of barrels, and there was no crossover. Because sometimes I'll do a blend and he'll do a blend, and then he'll be like, that's in my blend. You can't have that barrel. And I'm like, but I picked it first. So we're a very unique married couple. We have arguments over barrels.
That's not a bad argument to have. It's that's actually a good argument to have. I like that.
It is. So long story short is the fact that we started with the 2 of them, and it kind of became a thing. So every year now we produce a his and hers rye blend.
Love it.
We don't talk about whose is whose.
Sure, of course.
Don't need any more arguments.
Absolutely.
But this year, because of the increased distribution footprint, we decided that it would be very appropriate to do not 2 batches, but 3 batches.
3 batches of Old Carter whiskey rye is coming out. Wow, love it. Very nice.
7, 8, and 9. So one is
my gosh.
His, hers, and ours. And
very nice.
I hope you guys get a chance to try all of them and see what you think.
Absolutely. So, what I love about this one is really nice. It's different than, let's see, which rye do I have here? I have batch 6. Batch 6, 116.3, and I love this one. The cool thing about it, and you mentioned this earlier, is that from the nose, completely different than batch 6. What I like about this one is it's a bit more, slightly more floral, a little bit more spicy as well. And there's almost like some more almost like very faint notes of like chocolate in there as well. It's completely different, but that's the cool thing, right? Because you're talking about that before. You sometimes, when you're looking for something that you love in a product, especially with your product, you want certain different characteristics. What might be different than like a batch 6 versus this case, batch 8 that's coming out pretty soon. And I love the different notes in this. This is, oh gosh.
Right now, you have something I don't have. I have no rye in the house. I do have batch 6 from yesteryear, but I love that you got the 8.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
I know exactly what it tastes like because we've been going over and over and over it.
No, this is, truly, truly wonderful. Actually, I have to have one more sip just because it's just.
I feel so like nice. That batch 8 is a very deep rich expression of rye. It's not the high bright notes. It's just that really it's got great spice.
It does.
It's a much darker note than you might find on traditional ryes. And I don't know about you, but in our ryes, I don't get a ton. Well, I can get floral.
Yeah.
It's and I think it's the age on the ryes.
Sure.
I don't get that grassy note. I get a lot more of a dried grass, dried hay, dried herb. I love the dried herb.
Exactly.
So that's exciting to me.
Exactly. No, this is pretty cool. So now I know everyone's wondering. So obviously this is, coming out pretty soon. Are we thinking in the next month, 2 months? What's like the timing roughly? Not the exact, roughly.
Sure. So I feel that I'm confident within the next 2 weeks that all of our distributors will be able to pick up from the warehouse.
Ah, nice. Okay.
From that point, it's basically a logistics issue. So they've got to get it to their facilities, process it, and get it to their retailers and on-premise places.
Cool. Very nice. All right. So this is coming out really, really soon. So this is something that I can't wait to even go to my local stores and have a chance to grab a couple bottles of the different ones that are coming out. All right, so Sherri, so I've kept you for a long time, but I have, I think it's the perfect ending question for you. Are you ready for this one?
Okay. Let's find out.
All right. Last question for you, Sherri Carter. All right. What is harder to make? A damn good wine, not 100-point wine, not 100-point. Right? I know those are like epic, right? In the wine business, not 100-point, but like, let's call it like 97, 98, or a fabulous whiskey. Which one is harder to make and why?
Make.
I feel like almost like Jeopardy,
No, it's a fantastic question. And I think the answer is this. And we've been doing the wine for a long time. Mark and I actually lived at the winery for 8 years on the site of the winery, above the tasting room in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Nice.
And so
love that.
So when I answer this question, it is truly from a perspective of being so immersed in that lifestyle. And this was it kind of overlapped with starting the whiskey company, right? So we were there from 2007 until 8 years, 15. So we had released our first Kentucky Owls in 2014. So they literally those times overlapped. So, and I grew up on a farm in Ohio. And with animals and crops, and not a huge farm, but enough to know that Mother Nature, just when you think you know what you're doing, she will kick your you know what.
She will do that every now and then, for sure.
She will. And so you can never get too big for your britches. And there is nothing more trying than creating wine and your entire year's vintage is riding on one day of harvest a year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure.
So if you think about it from the perspective of you're making a wine from a crop produced from an unknown quantity, let's say.
Yeah.
Mother Nature. And at any time you can get beat up, whether it's in the spring at a bud break and you get a frost.
Yep.
And the vines have to regrow and reproduce and get back to speed. So that's back. Then you've got your little baby flowers, and if you get a big wind, guess what? Now you got shatter. You've got your grape clusters don't have enough. There's air in between the clusters, so that sets you up for another situation. Then you want to make sure you have a perfect ripening year, right? You don't want to have too much moisture. You don't want to have too much dry heat. You don't want to have too many days over.
Oh my gosh.
So it is
it's difficult. Wine sounds like it's really difficult.
Very intense, Marcus.
Oh my gosh.
So there are all of these things along the way where your heart is in your throat, and then anything is possible in the fall, we say now.
Yep, it's so true.
You know what I'm talking about. And so then it comes down to, what does harvest look like?
Yep.
How is that going to happen? So
Absolutely.
we have an incredible winery and an amazing facility. And we now have, I think, 14 100-point wines.
Wow, 14. Gosh, that's awesome. And I'm thinking back because I know when I was doing a lot, like research and so forth, your first one, keep me honest, was in 2012, right? 2012, which also was a double important year because it's also when you and Mark got married.
That's when we got married, yes.
So no pressure for Mark. Mark needs to come correct next year for your 10-year anniversary. I mean, there's no pressure, but Mark needs to step his game up next year. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I've given you a little insight into wine is tricky, and
it is.
So I think it is more difficult to make a 100-point wine because there are a lot of things that you're really fighting towards. I think it's more fun to make whiskey.
Whiskey's always more fun, but it sounds like whiskey's more fun, but wine sounds like, I mean, obviously from your experience, it seems to be way more challenging, which is good. It's good for us to, understand that. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
The flip side is whiskey takes a lot longer, right?
Yes,
so even though wine is only a 2-ish year process, whiskey, you've got to have patience.
Yes.
So they each have their pros and cons. I do love the flexibility with making whiskey and being able to distill when we want to distill.
Absolutely. Sherri, I can't thank you enough, honestly. Please, thank you very much for your time. I know how busy you guys both are, you and Mark. So I appreciate you guys. As I say each and every week on the channel, cheers, salute. Thank you to Old Carter Whiskey. Thank you for what you guys are doing. Keep doing what you're doing. We love your bourbons. We love your ryes. We love your whiskeys. And more important, we love your dedication, to the industry. So keep doing it. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate what you all do in this industry. You guys are a force to be reckoned with, and we love each and every one of you. And thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to this crazy craft that we practice.
Indeed. We'll raise one last glass. Cheers, Sherri.
Cheers, Marcus.
Take care.
You too.
Wow, that's amazing.